Throughout time, roller coasters have come and gone. Only some become legends for their intensity and thrills. Each and every year, coaster fans like you venture to the parks, searching for that one special ride that stands out above the rest. You submitted your rankings, and now it's time to reveal the group of elite roller coasters that you have voted as the best of the best. COASTER-net Uncut proudly presents the 2015 Thrilling 32.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I am Danny Miller, actually at home for the weekend in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania. I'm headed to Six Flags Great Adventure tomorrow morning, and I'm alongside my partner in crime, as always, Andy Rabarchek, and it's the Final Four tonight, Andy.
It is indeed the Final Four, the four last coasters standing. We've gone through weeks of discussion. We've gone through even more weeks of collecting polls, and now we are finally here to the last four, and tonight we're going to see which two coasters make it to the championship game, the two that stand out among the rest. And tonight we're going to find out what that championships game is going to be. Danny, I am so excited, I can barely contain myself.
Oh, I know, and me neither. I mean, the only thing, we talk about how the bracket is randomized and how we don't fix any of these matchups with one exception. The one exception is that we always make sure that the number one and the number two coasters are on opposite sides so that last matchup is always number one versus number two. So when we see these two brackets tonight, we're going to see the top two coasters that you folks voted as the top two in the wood and steel. So are you ready to get into it? We're going to start with the wood first.
I'm excited, Danny. I can't wait.
All right, well, here we go. We are starting on the wood side of the bracket, and we're talking about Boulder Dash going up against Voyage. Now, both of these coasters were done by the same design team, but by different companies. We saw Boulder Dash done by Custom Coasters towards the end of their time, and we saw Voyage being one of the very first coasters built by the Gravity Group, by the same design team that did Boulder Dash, and, you know, the same group of guys who designed it and engineered it, but different companies. Both of these do very well in the Golden Ticket Awards. Both of these do very well in the Mitch Hawker poll, and pretty much every other poll. Boulder Dash has won the Golden Ticket Award for Best Wood Coaster the last 2 years, and prior to that, I think Voyage had something like a 5 or 6 year run as the number one wood coaster. So we're talking about two coasters here that do very well in the popular polls, and Voyage is the number one coaster on my wood list and your wood list. Now, Boulder Dash is, I believe, number 3 on my wood list, and it's a little bit lower on yours.
It's past the top 10 for sure. You know,
Really?
I've talked about these two rides a lot because we kind of saw this matchup coming a while back. You know, the big question was it going to be the Voyage or was it going to be El Toro? You know, but we've been talking about these two coasters a lot, and and to be honest with you, I think Boulder Dash had the much easier route to the Final Four here. That Boulder Dash pretty much, you know, it had a little competition here and there throughout his round. I kind of thought, maybe Goliath had some legs on it, but it obviously did not. But Boulder Dash has made it to the Final Four, an impressive feat in itself. But is it going to overtake Voyage? I don't know. I know there's a lot of Boulder Dash fanboys out there. I know there's a lot of people that love that ride, but I think there's just a few more that love Voyage a little bit more than Boulder Dash. So I'm really interested to see, because, man, that championship game, either one of these two coasters, I think has a great shot at becoming champion. So when you look at this matchup, I really think that this is an important one because one of these two coasters could become champion. Like you said, Boulder Dash won it last year, right? If I'm correct.
Well, yeah, I was going to bring that up. It's a little interesting because this is the third year we're doing this contest, and Boulder Dash won 2 years ago, and Voyage came in second. Last year, it was Outlaw Run that won, and Voyage still came in second, Boulder Dash coming in third. So even the first 2 years we did this, Boulder Dash finished ahead of Voyage 1 year, but then Voyage jumped it, but couldn't defeat Outlaw Run in the finals last year. So in the first 2 years, we've seen one coaster finish ahead in 1 year, but then the other finish ahead. So this is kind of like the tiebreaker year, so to speak here.
It's the rubber match, if you will.
Yeah, it's the rubber match, if you will. Well, so now Voyage is looking to get into the championship match for the second straight year, and Boulder Dash is looking to get back there. And it is Voyage knocking off Boulder Dash, and the Voyage from Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana, is for the third straight year going to the championship round, and maybe the third time's a charm here. It lost to Boulder Dash 2 years ago, lost to Outlaw Run last year, so Voyage is going back to the championship match. And now we get to see if we get a rematch from last year or if New Blood and Gold Striker gets to take down Outlaw Run. But what do you think of Voyage heading to the championship?
Well, first let me say I think the Voyage has had an awesome run in the last 3 years here. That, like you've just stated,
sure.
Moving to the finals once again. The Voyage is a perennial favorite. People love that ride, like you said, in your top coasters, and obviously my number one at this time. Voyage is just one of those coasters that will not go away, and I think this year Voyage is going to have a renaissance of popularity, hopefully, that we already hear about a lot more people going down to Holiday World to ride Thunderbird. I think as they go down there for the first time to ride Thunderbird, maybe Voyage is going to jump up the rankings, but then at the same time, people complain about how rough Voyage is, and when you get these Johnny-come-latelys to the park, maybe they knock Voyage down a few spots, and maybe this is Voyage's last their last trip
maybe
to
there's
the
some disappointment.
Absolutely. Maybe Voyage will not make it next year to the championship round, but all we know is what happened this year, and this year Voyage is in the championship game, and I think it has a very strong possibility, a very good contender to take home that 2015 Wood Coaster crown.
Yeah, I think it's got a good shot, and a lot more people. I have dual monitors up tonight here for the very first time, and I'm looking at how many people in the bracket here picked Voyage to win it, and a lot more people picked Voyage than Boulder Dash. So that did seem to be the more popular pick overall. Now, going to the other side of things, we've got Outlaw Run, the defending champion, and looking to be the first repeat champion in this contest in either wood or steel, going up against Gold Striker. And as you'll see shortly, nobody picking Gold Striker to win the entire thing, but lots and lots of people picking Outlaw Run to win. I think 10 people out of 32 picked Outlaw Run to win the wood bracket, not a single one picking Gold Striker. So quite a few people on board with Outlaw Run making it back to the championship. But then you think about Gold Striker and how few people have been there. Maybe people just don't know about Gold Striker. It's not one. I mean, we talked about that region, the Long Beach Pike region, kind of being the one where we thought a Cinderella might emerge because you didn't have like an El Toro or a Voyage or a Boulder Dash or a coaster you're used to seeing in the top 5, top 3 there. Some people were thinking Raven. Maybe some people thought American Thunder. A few people even said Apocalypse, which lost to Gold Striker in the first round. But Gold Striker kind of seemed to be the strongest choice from a relatively weak region.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there that yes, Gold Striker is a strong choice. Yes, from all reports, you've been on it, other people rave about it, that yes, it is a very strong roller coaster. But I think it did benefit from being in that region. It might have, obviously, it's the strongest of that bunch, but you wonder what would have happened if it was put in any other region. Would it have made it as far? Maybe an Elite Eight trip, a Final Four trip? Now looking at possibly a championship game trip? I don't know. I think the Cinderella story is Gold Striker of this tournament, and I think that Cinderella story is about to be put to rest, that the book is about to close on this Cinderella, because I think Outlaw Run, the defending champion, is just too strong of a roller coaster to go down to the upstart Gold Striker.
Well, it's about 10 o'clock p.m. right now in the East Coast, about 9 o'clock where you are. But the clock strikes midnight on Gold Striker. Outlaw Run continues its run towards another championship. Voyage versus Outlaw Run is our championship matchup in the wood bracket. A rematch of last year, the first time we've had a rematch in the wood bracket. So that's interesting to see. And we'll see in, a couple of days whether or not Outlaw Run can complete the back-to-back championships, or if the third time's the charm for Voyage. And, I'm looking here, lots of people picking Outlaw Run and lots of people picking Voyage. I think 10 Outlaw Runs and, if I count correctly, 6 Voyages. So 16 of the 32 submissions, exactly half, picked either Outlaw Run or Voyage. 10 picking Outlaw Run and 6 picking Voyage here. So, boy, that is an awfully tough matchup. Nobody knew how to pick it last year, and I don't think any more people know for sure how to pick it this year. It's going to be a great matchup to talk about.
For sure. This is the matchup we've been waiting for. That this is it. I thought it was going to come down to these two rides. On my bracket, I had Voyage, I had Outlaw Run. I had these two picked correctly going into the championship game, and now my pick is the Voyage. That I think it's the Voyage's year. It's played around before in the previous few tournaments. Now it's here to stay. Now it's here to prove that it truly is the best wood coaster in the world, and I think it's going to do that when we get to this championship game for sure. I think it's the Voyage.
Sure, and only 3 out of 32 people picking both of these correctly to get to so you're in some rare company there to have picked both of these to get to the championship. Only 3, Jenny F., Trenton W., and then Joe R., the 3 people who picked this correctly. So congratulations to those folks, getting the 2 bonus points there. So we got Voyage versus Outlaw Run in the Wood Championship. Why don't we jump over to the steel bracket now? And, you talked about the Cinderella and Gold Striker. I think we kind of see the same thing here in the steel bracket. We've got 3 coasters that are expected to be here, and one that at the beginning of the tournament, I don't think a whole lot of people saw getting to the Final Four, even less, though, than Gold Striker. But we'll talk about Nemesis in a minute. We've got business to take care of here on the left side of the bracket first. We've got Bizarro from Six Flags New England going up against the defending champion Leviathan from Canada's Wonderland. And we're seeing in both of these matchups, we're seeing Intamin versus B&M and B&M versus Intamin. And, last year Leviathan winning the steel contest, coming in second the year before to Intimidator 305, which we're also going to talk about shortly. But Leviathan going for the repeat to try and get back to that championship matchup again. Do you think that Leviathan can follow in Outlaw Run's footsteps and get back to the championship matchup again?
You know what? I have a feeling it is. Like I look at Bizarro. I have not been on Leviathan, but I've said it. If I said it once, I've said it a million times. I was just not overly impressed by Bizarro, and I want to say that Bizarro is kind of on its downward swing a little bit. That you look at even things like the Golden Ticket Awards, and you see that Bizarro,
you see that
Bizarro won a number of years ago, but recently, it's still up there, but
it hasn't been winning recently.
It just hasn't been winning, that Millennium Force. But then again, Millennium Force got knocked out. We haven't even seen Leviathan in the top 2. So you go back to this, but in my gut, if I was, it's so tough because I haven't ridden Leviathan. I personally think Bizarro doesn't belong here, to be honest with you. If I had to pick, I look at the the round that it came out of. I had Iron Rattler going over Bizarro in the second round. I think Iron Rattler's a better coaster. Obviously, I think Maverick's the better coaster, but yet Bizarro has
doubting yourself now that you've had those other ones wrong.
Exactly, and Bizarro has found a way to overcome all of those. And Leviathan, on the other hand, it's been in the finals. It was the champion. Can it make it to the finals once more? I don't know. But if I'm going to be forced to pick, I'm going to have to say that we will see a repeat in Leviathan.
Well, and the interesting thing is not a lot of people having confidence in either of these as their champion. Now, lots of people having one of these two coasters in the finals, but only 3 people picking Leviathan and only 3 people picking Bizarro as their overall winner. So it seems like no matter who the winner of this is, they don't feel too confident about it winning the whole thing, but a lot of those people who aren't picking it also had Millennium Force winning the entire thing. I think 10 people picking Millennium Force. So with Millennium Force out of the discussion, do you think people's second pick might have been one of these? I think so. I think for the people who pick Millennium Force, they might go with Bizarro because it's always kind of been the right-hand man to Millennium Force in the golden tickets anyways, or Leviathan, which people say is the B&M version of Millennium Force. So it would make sense that one of these other two might be the second choice, but that's not what we grade on. So, and I will say, nobody in any of the submissions had both steel coasters picked correctly. So, if you had this one wrong, fear not, you may have had the other one right. But Bizarro from Six Flags New England knocks off the defending champion. Leviathan is not going to the championship for the first time, and Bizarro from Six Flags New England is going to the championship for the very first time, and has a chance to take its first title in this contest.
But that's, it's... I can't say that it's a surprise because of how well Bizarro has done in the past. I might say it's a surprise for the year 2015. To be honest, I rode Bizarro for the first time this season. It's not,
you weren't overly impressed. You thought it was good, but not overly.
Yeah, it's in my top. It's in my top 15. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's I need to this changed my life, but like I said, I haven't been on Leviathan either, so it's not overly shocking to me that Bizarro has moved on. However, I am very interested in this next matchup because of the implications it has for the championship.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing, and we talk about how Bizarro, I think, came in 4th both of the last 2 years. It may have come in 3rd one of those 2 years, but it's always been in that top 3 or 4. So to see it jump up a couple spots, not totally surprising. This other matchup here between Intimidator 305 and Nemesis is one that I don't think a whole lot of people saw coming. Intimidator 305 expected to be in the Final Four. The champion 2 years ago, the runner-up last year, expected to be in this discussion, in the Final Four. Everyone thought it was going to be maybe Millennium Force or maybe Skyrush that it has to go up against, but it's Nemesis from Alton Towers. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I think only 2 or 3 people had Nemesis going to the Final Four, if that. So, congratulations to those folks, but now we got to try and pick a winner, and I think you easily say Intimidator 305 right off the top of your head. But then when you think about it some more and you say, well, Nemesis beat Nitro, which is a big favorite of the East Coast people in the United States here who take part in this contest. A lot of people had that one wrong right off the bat. And then, well, either Afterburn or Silver Star, and you don't know about that one. And then it goes up against Millennium Force, and it's like, well, Millennium Force is obviously the better coaster there, but not in this case. So even though you might say, well, obviously the other coaster is better than Nemesis, you might have said that 3 times already in this tournament. So are you done saying that Nemesis is easily the worst coaster in a matchup when you might have been wrong about that 3 times already?
Yeah, and that's the problem is, I said at the beginning of this that Nemesis was my sentimental favorite once Maverick went down, and I've been rooting for Nemesis the whole time here, trying to see how far it was go. Never
like
in my wildest
raptor.
Exactly. Never in my wildest dreams, though, did I think that it was going to make it to the Final Four, and now we stand here on the precipice of the championship game, and Nemesis, in most of our minds at this point, has to have a pretty legitimate shot to making it to the championship. That, like you said, how many times can you count this coaster out? But then on the other hand, you have the overwhelming favorite of I-305 that, like you said, has done very well in our poll in the past. And man, if there wasn't a question, and this tournament has built up that question of can Nemesis power itself into the championship game? It's powered itself into the Final Four already. Can it now take that last step, and with the last bit of energy, can it step in there and then overtake I-305 and move into the championship? And I think if it does, man, do I think it has a shot, because I think this is going to be the harder of the 2 matchups for Nemesis. If it gets to the championship game against Bizarro, I think it's anybody's ball game at that point. I think anything could happen.
Yeah, you would have to think. If Nemesis can beat Nitro, Millennium Force, we know by process of elimination it was higher than Skyrush because Millennium Force beat Skyrush. And then if it beats I-305, you might say, oh, Bizarro's obviously the better coaster. But you don't know. You said that 4 times already, like I said. So you don't know. And I compared Nemesis to the Gold Striker of the steel bracket because it was the one that wasn't supposed to be here. But unlike the wood bracket, there was an obvious choice in this region of what should have been here. And that one was upset in Millennium Force. And even Skyrush, I think people are surprised. Skyrush, a lot of people picking Skyrush to get to the Final Four. I think you did, right? You had Skyrush getting to your championship.
I did. I had Skyrush and Maverick going to my championship.
Yeah, so I mean, right there it just shows you that you can't really predict these things, and that 3 people picked Intimidator 305 to win the whole thing, and not a single person picking Nemesis. So in that regard, I think it is a little bit more decisive. And just like with Gold Striker, the clock strikes midnight, Nemesis goes down to Intimidator 305, so both B&M coasters get knocked off here in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And now we see Bizarro versus Intimidator 305 and in the finals. And this is what becomes interesting from my point of view. We always hear what's better, Millennium Force or Intimidator 305. You always compare those two because they're the 2 Cedar Fair Intamin Giga coasters, very different rides. One's very intense. The other one is very drawn out and, has been the iconic ride for a decade and a half now. The other is kind of the new kid on the block. And then at the same time, you see, well, what's better, Bizarro or Millennium Force, because they're 2 Intamin coasters built right at the turn of the millennium. One is very airtime focused, one is very speed focused. So you hear the debate between Millennium Force and I-305 and between Millennium Force and Bizarro. You don't hear a lot of people debate between Bizarro and Intimidator because people don't make the connection because they're in a different chain, they're of different styles, and they're from different eras. There's too much that's different about them, yet when you think about it, they're both really similar, and they're both really good, and they're both in our championship matchup.
I think it's exciting. I can't say that I'm surprised to see Nemesis go down. It had a great run, probably one of the best runs of the tournament, knocking off some amazing coasters down the road. But I-305 against Bizarro, now that's a matchup that's really hard to determine. Oh, man. Once again, I haven't been on I-305 yet either. I feel silly, sitting here saying this all the time, but
it's a little tough.
And I said it last time. I said I haven't been on Leviathan, but I think it's going to win, and I'm going to say it again. I haven't been on I-305, and I think it's going to win here. I don't know. I don't believe in Bizarro, but yet it's here.
You're like an I-305 to take the crown back this year.
I think so. I think so, but you know what? Bizarro is just. It's got the pedigree behind it.
You don't know how to gauge it.
Yeah, I don't know
tough.
this.
And I can tell I can see your wheels turning.
Yeah, it's just I'm just trying to figure it out, trying to think of the angles and think of the drops, and you look at the tail of the tape, and
it just doesn't match up.
It doesn't match up. It doesn't. And you would think, man, I don't know. This is a coin flip for me. This is definitely a coin flip. I feel a lot stronger about the wood side of things with Voyage over Outlaw Run, even though that's a tough matchup there. Let's not mince words here. That's a tough matchup. But this one, I just don't know the sides enough. I just don't. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, and a much bigger variation of picks in the steel side too. Only 3 people picking Bizarro to win it, and only 3 people picking Intimidator 305 to win it too. So only 6 out of 32 people having one of these 2 winning it overall. And like I said, nobody picking both of these to be in their finals. So it's quite interesting. And before we wrap up for this episode here. We're going to put up a little graphic here, which is the updated standings now. Now, I've been posting these on Twitter and Facebook and also in the forums for you folks to see. But up on the screen right now, you will see an image that represents our standings board. And I'll just quickly go through how this works here. You see your name and then how many picks you had right in each particular round. The W4 and S4 towards the middle of the graphic there represents the wooden Final Four round and the steel Final Four round, and how many picks you had correct. As you can see, only 3 people having both of the wooden coasters correct. And then you see you're ranked by your points. And your points the picks are worth progressively more points as you go along. The first round is worth 1 point per pick, the next round 2, the next round 4. So each of the ones you had correctly on this show are worth 8 points each. And then if you are lucky enough to get both of them or all of the picks right in a particular round, you get 2 bonus points. So for the 3 people who got both wooden coasters right, for the championship, not only do they get 8 points each for 16 total points, they also get 2 bonus points. So they get 18 points. So right now, and also on the right here, you see the points, you see how many total picks they have correct, and then you also see who their champions are. So as you can see, a lot of championship picks being knocked out in this last round. You see your Leviathans going away, you see your Boulder Dash picks going away as well. So right now our leader is Password121, who actually also has the most picks correct at 48, which is, if I'm looking correctly here, that's 2 more than anyone else, a couple people with 46. And then Jenny F. from our Ohio, she has moved up to second. She was actually very far down the list after the first round, only 24 points after that first round, and I think the leader had 29. So she's jumped up, as you can see, had a very good round last week. And also, now both of those people having just their wood champion left in it, both of them picking Leviathan to win the steel. But then in third place is Jim W., who now lives in Canada. Our friend Jim, who was on vacation in California, he's heading back up to California right now. But he is the highest person on this list who currently has both of his champions still in the running. So he's only at 87 points, 4 points behind with 46 picks altogether. But as you can see on the list on the side there, if Outlaw Run and Bizarro both win, then Jim W. is our winner with 123 points, which is rather impressive. If Outlaw Run and Intimidator 305 win, then Password 121 is our winner with 109 points. And then if Voyage wins, regardless of who the steel champion is, if Voyage wins the wood side, then Jenny F. will come out on top with 108 points. So everyone else who is fourth on down is eliminated at this point from winning the entire contest, but lots and lots of good brackets. I know Trenton, Ryan, and Adam Iko 02. I hope I'm or Adam Iko 2. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Those guys have been towards the top throughout the entire contest, and sitting there in seventh place, my aunt Sue W. There. She actually started down in like the bottom third, and my sister, and my dad have kind of had a little bit of a rivalry going because they all did brackets, and she slowly moved her way up to the point where she's in the discussion here. Not mathematically still in it, but lots of good picks. As you can see, nobody having less than 31 correct, which is already more than half. So, and when you think about how tough some of these matchups were, that's actually a pretty good accomplishment. So everyone doing rather well this year, I think. Very, very, very interesting. And as always, we appreciate everyone's participation in this and their support of it. This has been an absolutely fantastic contest and a fantastic, last couple of weeks that we've been doing these shows. I've really enjoyed doing it. I hope you have too, Andy, because this has been a big part of our show the last couple of weeks, huh?
Yeah, for sure. That the response has been overwhelming so far. And we're moving into the final phase now. So we're going to get it. So the next episode will be the championship round, but also we're going to explain to you how the actual full rankings broke down as well. So that'll be interesting to see.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, how the brackets played into who the Final Four were, to see what the actual top 10 coasters were, and then maybe have a good idea of how things played out from there, because we know, or I should say we don't know, if these Final Four are actually the top 4 coasters. That is not known by this.
Right, I think the very first year we did this, I think the way the bracket worked out is, I think Behemoth was in our Final Four the very first year we did this, but it only ended up being 12th on the overall list. It just happened to be that it got a lot of high numbers were randomly placed into that part of the bracket. So we'll see how that works out in the next show. We'll go through the entire rankings for both. We'll also obviously determine our winners and reveal our winners, and we will also be able to show who has won the contest. Obviously, like I said, it's one of those 3 people that we mentioned earlier in that scenario standings chart, but I know everyone's on pins and needles, especially those 3 folks, just waiting to see if they get to sit amongst greatness, I think, as you said.
Yes, absolutely. As always, thank you for joining us here tonight, and I'm excited about the championship. You're excited about the championship. I can't wait. As always, I'm Andrew Barczak from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Schnecksville, Pennsylvania tonight.
And right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time.